Well, hello, friend, and welcome to the RR Show. My name is Vince, and on today's show, we're going to take a little walk into the creepy files. First up, I got 2 stories from Glitch in the Matrix. Then the third story is going to be coming from Let's Not Meet. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's jump into it with a disappearing story on this edition of the RR Show. This one is titled, My Dad Disappeared in an Elevator. It's posted by Gerbil Panda on the subreddit Glitch in the Matrix. Just discovered this subreddit exists, so I figured I'd share the biggest glitch I ever experienced. Back in the junior year of high school, when I was 16, my family and I were moving to a new apartment. Near the end of the day, me, my dad, and a family friend, who I didn't really know then and haven't talked to since, were walking from the apartment to the elevator so we could go to the car and grab the last things from it. When my dad stepped into the elevator, the door closed almost immediately. It was specifically weird because the door had only been open for a couple of seconds, and it closed way faster than I've ever seen an elevator door close before or after. The door won't open, so we're all confused. We're talking to Dad, and he can hear us. We can hear him. Then suddenly, mid-sentence, his voice just cuts off entirely, and the door opens, and the elevator is just empty. So me and the family friend just sort of stare for a second. And I step in, look around. No sign of Dad. I step back out of the elevator, and immediately, the doors close again, and then reopen. And Dad's just standing in the middle of the elevator, looking dumbfounded. So I ask him what happened. He explains, from his perspective, that after the elevator door closed, at one point he stopped hearing us, and the elevator went up. And then it just stopped. And he heard what seemed to be wild animals he couldn't quite identify, and the sound of scratching on the door. This felt like it lasted around 5 minutes to him before suddenly the elevator door opened without the elevator ever feeling like it went back down. We lived there for over a year. We never did figure out what happened, and the elevator never did that again. Posted by XX Moonchild_XX on the subreddit Glitch in the Matrix. Where do these keep coming from? I don't really know where to post this, but I do need to post it. My friends don't really follow weird events. By my bedroom is my desk, and it started with a foam ball. I found it by one of the legs of my desk. I do have cats, but I have no idea how it got in my apartment. My cats love it though, and I chalked it up to it being in the hall and getting in. I only ever found these balls at one pet store, and it was my first time ever seeing them. The next item was an extra earring from a set I have already. Just plain crosses. But this third one had the same wearing off marks as if I'd been wearing it. I only had the one pair, no extra. I decided it must have been one of my friends or something. Really no big deal. Then, the third item was 2 metal keys. They weren't like house keys, but for a jewelry box. I don't own a jewelry box. I never have seen these keys before. I also found a little toy of a Stranger Things looking dog monster. Neither my partner nor I watch Stranger Things, and none of our friends do. The items are always found in the same spot, and it's been 6 months starting with the yellow ball. I joked with my friends that the earring thing was a glitch in the Matrix because of that TikTok trend, but the keys really intrigued me. I genuinely don't know if this is a glitch or a dimensional portal or where to post this, but I'd love to keep it updated as I imagine it'll happen again. Side note, when I tried to post on here, my second Reddit account was signed in instead of my main. I never switch and use my second usually only on my computer. I don't even know how it happened. My second account has like no karma. They know and don't want me to talk. Crazy conspiracy theorist classmate lowkey admitted to having contributed to her husband's passing. Posted by Scarlett AK on the subreddit Let's Not Meet. So where to even begin? In my country, the government decided to push free professional classes to anyone who's either benefiting from welfare or just unemployed. I, a 30-year-old female, decided to enroll in one of those classes before moving to another state next year, just to have something more on my CV and to have an excuse to touch grass since I'm unemployed. And I specifically picked a social media marketing and management formation that started 3 months ago. Everything was great about it, and it seemed to me that all my classmates and professors were great people. I even started to make some friends, and I must point out that no one in my class is underage, the youngest being 21 and the oldest 56. After a couple of weeks of classes, they introduced us to the main curriculum of the whole course that will involve a months-long group project among students. The project consists in inventing a brand from the ground up and marketing it on social media as if it's real, about to launch on the market. I was super excited about this and couldn't wait to face this challenge. They picked the groups at random, and the RNG gods chose me to be paired with a 56-year-old woman. We'll call her M. She barely spoke to anyone up until that point. Thinking she was nothing but a nice lady, I tried to accommodate her for any preferences that she'd have on the project, such as choosing what the topic would be, and she immediately starts telling me about half her life story just out of nowhere, and focused particularly about a skin issue that she had that she claimed doctors only made worse, and how she cured herself with herbs and essential oils. In hindsight, this was already the first red flag. Her rambling just left me scratching my head, and just to break the awkward silence, I said we should pick that as a brand idea. Natural remedies, food supplements, and a cosmetics brand that's not some MLM or a cult. And she immediately agreed and smiled like a little girl, which back then made me kind of happy. After then, she picked the name, the idea for the logo, and motto without asking me for an opinion, saying it felt important to her. Put a pin in this for later on. And that since I had no experience with this niche, I should learn from her. She insisted so much I had to comply. And that's when hell started for me, and she would call and message me on WhatsApp constantly, insisting to see me work in real time on the designs, logos, mock-ups, etc., because she needed to supervise my actions. Her excuse being I'm a little girl that hasn't known the world yet. She never liked any of my works and forced me to redo things over and over again. I'm on the spectrum and have a very hard time setting boundaries with people or dealing with the idea of displeasing someone. So I kept pushing myself to stay strong and to keep going because I couldn't deal with how this woman would have reacted to anything she might have seen as insubordination. On top of the fact, I didn't want to fail the course, and from the beginning, all of our profs insisted the group project was vital to the final score. It's in one of those calls that she starts telling me some of the most unhinged stuff I've ever heard in my life. After seeing me drink a sip of an energy drink, she screamed at me to toss that garbage away, and then explaining to me the reason why. In her opinion, energy drinks, sodas, and junk food are infested with nanomachines that infect the human body and rewrites their DNA. She then explains that that's because the great powers are not aliens like most people think, but androids and AI hive minds ready to enslave humanity through biomechanical control. She also keeps going on about how AI's existence since before Christ came, and an ancient civilization before the Great Reset, and all the great men in history were actually androids or giants. She also threw in the fact that she's sure dinosaurs are nothing but a fairy tale and could have never existed. So in her opinion, big people can exist, but big birds can't? LOL. The first incident, the biggest one, happened last month. On one weekend evening where instead of slaving away for her, I went out with my mom to visit some friends and be back home the next morning. I forgot my phone and realized it was too late. But since M and I hadn't agreed to work that night, I thought nothing of it. Oh man, was I naive. My phone was blown up with messages and phone calls, all from M, except a couple of messages from another classmate of mine that told me she'd called him obsessively with demands of him showing up at my front door to make sure I was okay. He had mentioned before we live on the same block. Later that week, I get called into the school administration because apparently M had called them too and told them that I had gone missing for 3 to 4 days. I tried in vain to keep it together and just bursted into tears in front of the secretaries, telling them and showing them all that this woman was putting me through, explaining my boundary setting issues, and they decided to immediately inform the profs and find a solution that would have allowed me to not have any more contacts with her, but before they could take any actions, me and M are informed one more student was going to join our group. We'll call him T. Nothing much to say about him. He's super nice. And he did help out that following week by not complying to M's demands and unreasonable standards. For some reason, she never complained about decisions made by T. In my last call with M and T, M goes on another unhinged rant. This one will be relevant later, and it's what makes this story so messed up on multiple levels. She claimed she's being gang-stalked and sabotaged by Big Pharma because she invented a miracle ointment that could reconstruct any sort of biological tissue. She said she tested it on the hand of a friend of hers that had third-degree burns, claiming she saw the nerves, tendons, muscles, and skin grow back, saving the hand. She then added that a prototype of said ointment that mostly consisted of garlic and aloe cured her husband from cancer a few years back. She also added how after an accident over a decade ago, the doctors decided to sabotage her uterus during an emergency surgery to prevent her from having children. More of the Big Pharma sabotages involved several lawsuits she was involved in. She concludes that she's taking SMM classes because she wants to learn how to communicate with social media and the new generation. I'm personally afraid she's going to try to scam desperate people into buying her BS garlic and aloe miracle cure. The second incident happened the next day before class. A friend decided to sit next to me since the class of the day wasn't going to involve the group projects. We put our stuff on the desk, and since we were early, we decided to go into the room to get a coffee. M comes in, and we hear a commotion in the classroom. We then peek inside, and we see her tossing my friend's stuff to another desk. My friend asked what was going on, and M just coldly responded that seat is mine. I nodded at my friend as if to say it's okay to try to defuse the situation before it escalated. 2 days later, we get informed that I was swapped from M's group to another one. I will say that finally, I'm working with the girl I made friends with, and we're having a lot of fun. So, I thought it was over. No more of M's weird crap, right? Right? Well, the calls and messages never ended. Actually, she started obsessively calling the school and the professors as well to protest about the decision of removing me from her group. Her texts were filled with weird and trivial questions about random topics or very personal questions, up to 50 to 60 texts per day. At this point, I stopped responding almost entirely to her, screenshotting everything she was sending me. This leads to the third and last incident. The short, clean version of events is M is in class, and I asked the professor a question that involved a very important global matter. He replied and then asked us about our opinion. 2 people spoke before I did, giving examples of people or brands getting canceled for sharing political stances unwisely, and how problematic or controversial history or presence on social media might impact negatively one's chances of employment. It was once back home I realized M had sent me several rage-filled texts, claiming I was incredibly rude to have answered to her instead of letting the prof answer, and that she was expecting my apologies. I wrote a long text to her explaining myself. I told her I would not apologize, since I had done nothing wrong, and finally blocked her number. She thankfully hasn't been able to find me on social media yet because I don't use my real name online. Since then, she's been missing from all the classes, which is nice because I really didn't want her to try and confront me in person. But it's what I've learned today from one of my classmates during break that left me horrified and pushed me to write this post. One of my classmates, we'll call her Y, told me M and her had been exchanging text from time to time. Mostly because Y took pity on M thinking like I did at first. She was just some weird, old, and lonely lady. In one batch of texts, she goes into detail about her husband that had passed away from cancer a few years back. Some of the texts read, "We fought tooth and nail. We didn't bend over to men nor God, but they took him away from me anyway. I was so close to keeping him with me. At least I know he trusted and followed me until the end." These are verbatim because after putting two and two together, me and Y figured she's either delusional and lying about everything. She tried to cure her husband from cancer with her ointment instead of traditional medicine, effectively killing him. Also, we found out she's already selling her services inside of a spa belonging to a relative of hers, using the name she picked for our project. She's also been using my work for her personal social media pages involving her services, which explains why she was so obsessive about supervising my work. She was basically getting free commissions out of me. Today was my last day of class before the Christmas holidays. And after that, it's just going to be 3 more months until my classes are over. I don't know where this story will lead me to further, but honestly, I hope she never shows up to class ever again. I'm really hoping not to have to come back with more updates. We really appreciate you being with us on today's show. The RR Show is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and Wessler Media. Now, if you'd be so kind, follow or subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And if you also haven't done already, please leave us a very nice 5-star review. Thanks, Mom. Also, for more, you can visit rrshow.com. That's rrshow.com. I'm your host, Vince. My producer, Kevin, thank you. We'll see you next time.